Birmingham, Britain's second city, and home to one of the largest Muslim populations in the UK. A community clustered in the poorest inner city neighbourhoods, and now feeling the consequences of global events.
The last time I was here in Birmingham, Muslims in Britain were reacting to a range of issues, from the rise of the so-called Islamic State to allegations of extremists infiltrating schools. What I found was young men and women struggling to find acceptance in their own country. Since then, there's been 2 major attacks in Paris, UK anti-terror laws have been beefed up, and now Britain is bombing ISIS in Syria.
So how has it all impacted on people here? I've come back to find out. In a local shisha bar in Nechells, a popular hangout for young guys, there's a sense of being under attack from politicians, the media and the wider public.
David Cameron recently said, whoever doesn't vote for the war in Syria is an ISIS sympathizer. Yeah? So how can we express our feelings without being labelled terrorists? I personally think myself is the way that the Jewish community felt when Hitler was actually terrorising them. That's what the British are doing to Muslims within Britain.
Come on guys, they're not putting you in concentration camps.
No, they're not putting it, not yet.
You think, is that what you think?
It's getting close, it's getting close to that. There's a lot of other youngsters who feel this way as well. I mean, like I said, when I'm going on the train, I mean, I'm getting funny looks from people. Why is that? I mean, we've not caused no harm to any people, but it seems as though the people are watching the news, they're reading the newspapers, reading Facebook, and everybody's being brainwashed into thinking that a terrorist is a Muslim.
This Islamophobic attack on a bus in London took place in October.
You see, that's why like you people. Because rude. You come to England and you have manners. Go back to your country.
In the immediate aftermath of the Paris attacks, hate crimes targeting Muslims tripled in London alone. The Metropolitan Police specifically log Islamophobic incidents, but only in October did the government confirm that this will be done nationwide. One report says the majority of victims are women. I met a group of students at the University of Birmingham.
Where do you think this hate and Islamophobia is coming from?
I think the way in which news reports exploit and use these situations as a pretext to launch attacks on Muslims and perpetuate negative stereotypes. So, for example, The Sun claiming that 1 in 5 Muslims sympathise with ISIS. These things have tangible consequences.
There was a girl in Birmingham New Street, like this was 7:30 in the morning, and she was attacked by a guy, like literally punched in the face just for wearing a hijab. And we shouldn't feel that way. We shouldn't have that threat. We shouldn't be scared to go out of our houses.
Is that how you feel? Do you fear for your safety?
Yeah, I fear for my safety.
If we're around university at a late time, then we're having to travel in groups or with someone.
Don't you think that there should be condemnation from the Muslim community when stuff like Paris happens?
I think there's this expectation for Muslims to apologise for the actions of extremists and who are essentially un-Islamic despite what they might say. So I've heard people say that they've yet to hear Muslims condemn the attacks. So there exists this notion that we're somehow complicit and worse, responsible for terrorism. And as a Muslim, I can say that I don't condone any kind of massacre. As a humanitarian, I don't think there's any way you can logically defend murder, as many politicians do. But at the same time, I don't think I should apologise for their actions, because then there's this recognition that I'm somehow part of it, and I'm not.
The government says it's doing everything it can to engage with this community and others like it across the country, to show young Muslims in particular that there is a place for them in British society. But is it working? Last year, I visited Sal and his mates who work out at a gym in the city.
I served in the British Army. I don't feel British. I don't want to be British, but I'm going nowhere.
Back in the gym, the same guys say the decision to bomb Syria has made things worse.
I'm not just angry about it. The Muslim community are just angry about it. The whole community, everybody is angry about what's going on.
The British foreign policy is now perfect propaganda for ISIS. If ever you wanted a recruitment mandate for ISIS, it's just British foreign policy.
But do you think that the Muslim community is in denial? Because there's people from the UK that have gone to join ISIS. These people are from Muslim communities in the UK and they're being radicalised and they're going...
Is the Christian community in denial when all these Christians are shooting each other in American schools? It's got nothing to do with Christians and this has got nothing to do with Muslims.
But groups like ISIS quote the Quran, they quote the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, and they give religious arguments.
the Ku Klux Klan used to have crosses and sheets and talk about Christianity, but nobody ever turned around and says, let's blame all the Christian world for the Ku Klux Klan. They're marginalized, they're isolated, and they're called out for what they are, a bunch of extremists running around with sultan.
However, some here feel that Muslims in the UK are quite lucky, attracted by Britain's more tolerant multiculturalism, like Abdul Malik, who moved here from France.
I mean, I've been here for over 10 years, and concerning my religion, I never had a problem. I've worked for different companies, for different people. I never had a problem with my religion. In France, if I would ask someone a place to pray, they may even refuse me to give. They may even refuse to give me a job. They would straight away tell me, "You're not here, to pray and everything." And in here, we see it like, wow, they give us like extra rights compared to to what we actually expect.
Even if Britain is more tolerant than other countries in Europe, some Muslims born and bred here feel the old prejudices are as strong as they've ever been.
The way I basically see it is like this: a dog born in a stable is still a dog. Just because it's born in the stable, it doesn't make it a horse. Just the way us being born in this country doesn't make us English, doesn't make us white. We'll always be labelled as Muslims, as terrorists.
Barely a week passes without politicians announcing more resources to tackle extremism and radicalisation. But there's little evidence their strategy is making a difference. In the battle for hearts and minds of young Muslims on the streets of our cities, it would seem that the government is losing.